Vibrant Living with Diane Brandon, your gateway to improving all aspects of your life. Embrace the possibilities and live vibrantly with Diane Brandon.
Hello, I'm Diane Brandon. The longing looks, the infatuation, that impatience to be together. Ah, love. But what about when love fades?
Why does the sun go on shining? Why does the sea rush to shore? Don't they know it's the end of the world? 'Cause you don't love me anymore.
Now, have you ever felt that way when a relationship ended? Have you ever felt depressed and that everything was bleak and that basically it was the end of the world when your love walked out or just disappeared? Boy, I've known some who've done that. You know, relationships can bring us wonderful joy, but their ending can really bring us to the depths of despair. I know that all too well. A breakup is never fun. In fact, it can be downright agonizing. And as I said, I have been there. But what if there were a way to move through that breakup yuck just a little less painfully? Boy, wouldn't that be wonderful? Welcome to Vibrant Living with Diane Brandon, brought to you in part by Effusion Skincare, makers of toxic-free skincare products and cosmetics. Here at Vibrant Living, we do our best to bring you life-enhancing information every week, all designed to help you improve your life in all areas. And relationships are one very important area of our lives. And love brings wonderful things to our lives. But I'll tell you, those breakups don't. And moving through them just a little less painfully is what we're going to look at today. Of course, as you know, we never plan for breakups or fall in love with a breakup in mind. But learning a little about minimizing the pain of a breakup could just come in handy. I'm joined today by Lisa Stedman. She's a journalist who specializes in relationships, and she's the author of a book entitled It's a Breakup, Not a Breakdown. And she has all sorts of tips to share with us, so just allow yourself to get something good to drink, get comfortable, and listen in. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
Well, I'm pleased to have you. You're dealing with an interesting topic, and I think it's one that we can all relate to because I know myself from having been in different relationships, always looking for that wonderful man, the anguish that you go through when a relationship ends.
Yes.
But you feel that you know how to move through this more easily. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. There is a way to stay stuck and there is a way to move on. And my goal for anyone going through a breakup is to show them how to move through the pain, because there will be pain. Move them through it as easily and quickly as possible so you don't get stuck and waste years of your life trying to heal your heart.
Oh, yes. So before we get into how we can do that,
right,
let me ask you something. What are some of the things that people go through when a relationship ends? What are some of those symptoms?
Well, you know, they're really the 5 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
There is just this shock and denial, and then there is this rage, and then you go through bargaining, and you even go into, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, the depression, the grief, the
Yes.
mourning, the loss, and then you get to acceptance.
Well, you know, and you draw the analogy to grieving, and it is like losing somebody who literally dies, who transitions, who's
the
no
relationship dies.
Well, because the relationship dies, but I personally feel that it's really a little more than that, because when somebody dies, they die basically usually, unless it's suicide, because they can't help it. And I know that our emotions are not always rational, but when a relationship ends, I think I personally feel that one thing that makes it worse is blaming. You know, it adds that little extra, not so pleasant factor of you've abandoned me or you didn't love me.
Yes, and this is important. You know, a lot of times we wish our ex would disappear from the planet. We don't wish death on them, but in some ways it would be easier if they just completely kind of evaporated from our lives.
Yes.
And that's why it's important to create, you know, like if you can, get them out of your life completely. So, yeah, here is one of the areas where we get stuck. It's that shaming and that blaming. If only I'd done this, if only you'd loved me more, if only you hadn't cheated, if only, you know, I had been prettier or smarter or more successful or whatever we tell ourselves.
Yes.
And we can really get ourselves into a funk and get us all worked up over this idea, if only, or I suck, I'm the problem in relationships, and that doesn't do anything except keep us
perpetuate it. So do you think it's helpful at all if you have been in a relationship that broke up to try to sit with yourself and look at what you're feeling and go, okay, why am I feeling this anger? Why am I feeling this emotion? Why am I feeling that emotion? And try to get to the bottom of it. Does that help at all?
I think it does. You may need some perspective before you can do that. You may need to go into your, like, really celebrating what I call your slump, which is crying, emotionally eating, playing with a voodoo doll, poking pins in, whatever you need to do to get through the ick the mess.
Yes.
But then there is this period where it's really important to look back and go, okay, let me revisit this. How did things play out? And this is hard work. It's not fun to look at your own behavior and go, I made some mistakes. But in doing so, you actually learn, and one of the greatest lessons for us all is when a relationship ends, looking at our choices, our actions, how we participated, and how we attracted somebody who may not have been right for us.
Well, that's funny that you say that, Lisa, because I personally, through my intuitive counseling, have looked at relationship after relationship after relationship ad infinitum over the past 17 years. And one thing that I feel is a lot of our relationships are what I call learning relationships.
Yes.
We are in them to learn something. And one of the greatest things we can learn is discernment, because one thing I see over and over again is that people want so badly to get into a relationship that when they meet somebody, and even if there are some little red flags, they completely ignore those red flags because they're so motivated to be in a relationship. So when relationships end, if you can look back and look at those red flags that you ignored, then your discernment is going to increase.